Gang, Dr. Spangler here. This is our first lecture series that we're going to talk about throughout the semester. We'll have a weekly one like this I'll try to post. It goes along with your text and your learning, and I'll be posting other things as well. Today we're going to talk about interactive design. What is it? What is the user experience? What does this mean? What is HCI, that human-computer interaction? When we start diving into this, we're going to learn a lot about the scientific elements of what brings about interactive design and how we actually evaluate good designs and bad designs. What do these people do? We all just don't sit there and program. And if we do just sit there and code, what's good code, bad code? Is it actually working for our users? Is it being productive? Are they able to use something that we create and have functionality? How do we understand this? Well, there's a scientific actual study methodology I'm going to teach you throughout the course to doing this. And you together as a team at the end of the semester will be working the last 4 weeks on actually doing an interactive design evaluation. A UTA they call it. So you'll be learning those task works. You'll understand whether or not the usability tasks assigned are actually working effectively for the user that it's designed for. So what is interactive design? Let's think about that. Well, we could bring it right down to the smallest amount. It's designing products to support human communications, interactions in everyday life, and making our work environments and lives simpler. Maybe it's through wearable technology. Think about it today. What do we have? You can have Google Glass any day now. Windshields on cars are being designed so that it's windshield up. So GPS will be actually lit up on your screen of your driver's window. You turn to the left and look out, you'll still see a little LCD screen. Wouldn't that be incredible? Well, it's coming. Maybe it's mobile. It's technology such as we're seeing everywhere drones that are going to deliver our next pair of shoes from Zappos. Or it's robotic. Everybody's seen the Roombas, the sweepers. How do we know those are good designs? Look on YouTube for a little bit later in your life here for some fun and Google robotic sweepers and see some of the follies that are out there on YouTube of the designs that were actual failures. Maybe we're looking at virtual reality, how today you're not even in the class, but we're still communicating together like we're together. Maybe it's a shareable interface and you're working on your games. How many of you guys out there are gamers? I was sitting in my barber shop, getting my hair cut, watching two young men play actual games with other people across the globe, where they were working together in a warfare type of action game and talking through microphones and communicating their needs and what they wanted to do. Interactive design is all about creating a good design with the users in mind. And when we think about a user is anybody who's going to interact with that design we do. Whether it's a pencil, a pair of glasses on your face, a website, or maybe you're working with somebody who's hearing impaired and you're trying to find a way to help accentuate their hearing using their other assets that they have such as sight and touch. So user's mindset is one of our first things we have to think about whether or not a design is good. Does it fit their goals and meet their expectations? If the task is not being completed, it's not a good design. If they're not having fun doing it and pleasure, or not getting joy out of it, then the design is poor. If the tasks ultimately aren't able to be completed, it's a failure. And the actions that need to be accomplished, whether it's a simple communication, like you're receiving now, or able to get help from another product. If your website goes down and you're searching and you need help to learn how to use something on your interactive page today, if it's not working, what do you have to do? Are the help icons working? Is there a way to fix this? All this comes in mind with good designs. Thinking about the user's mindset, their goals, and the tasks and the actions that they have to do to get something completed and communicate from one end to the other. Shannon and Weaver thought of this idea back in the 40s. The idea was simple. You're sending a message to a receiver. If there's noise in the center, think about the old wire system. If the wire was broke when they were doing teletype, the message didn't get through. This is a design aspect. You have to think about all these things. Today it's changed because we're using cell phones. We're literally using interfaces that we can see each other. We're going to use them later in the semester as well. Maybe we all Skype together. We have a classroom Skype, or I communicate with you on a frustration you have through Skype. So we can talk and I can see your frustration. I can see if you're confused, and I can see whether or not my goals are being inefficient to you. If you're having difficulties navigating through the platforms I design, this is something that I need to know. How am I going to get that? I'm going to use what's called user feedback, and that will come from you. Later in the semester, I'll ask you questions like that about my designs. There's physical aspects. If it's too large to hold and you have little hands, it's not going to work. Do we comply it to ADA? American Disability Acts is one of the hardest things to comply with a lot of times. When you're thinking about designs, you're thinking about a task, A to B. You're writing code, A, B, C, get it done, good, it's X, we're done. With compliancy, you have to think about all the things that are handicaps to other people, or limitations in their abilities to how you have to help them. It's not just about accessibility and ease, it's accessibility and ease for all. So some of these things are bad. This is where the idea of user-centered design comes about. How do we understand this? Well, we talk to our users. The first thing is feedback. What do you want me to do for you? What should your design be? What do you want me to accomplish for you before we even start? A piece of paper goes a long way. Writing down bullet points. Well, Dr. Spangler, I want you to design me a website for my photographs to be displayed, and I want people to be able to buy them. I want to be able to set the prices, and I want to have the taxes taken out. I also want to be able to send that picture that they're buying to someone else, that they print it so that you put your address in and they send it to you, because I don't want to do that. And I want that postage charge and their fees in there as well. These would all be information I would get first, feedback from my client, before we even think about a user-centered design. Then I would ask, what's the environment going to be? If they're working in a hot temperature place, we might not want an interface that would shut down because of heat controls. Is the functions going to be correct if you're going in a dark mine and they don't light up and your keyboard can't be seen and you're using a platform because you're a coal miner? Think about how backlighting a keyboard would be an effective tool in a dark mine. Maybe it's a cultural issue. Think about this. I have friends in Saudi Arabia and India and all over the world. They read, in most cases, not the same as us. Not physically in the sense of reading, but we read left to right. They read right to left. Huh? Yeah, it's a whole different design thought. So if we're designing an interface for somebody in Saudi Arabia, say for example this class, we might have to do it backwards from how we traditionally think left to right. Or if you notice, a lot of the times you'll see my designs as centered. I do this on purpose because I don't know where all my students are going to be in the world. So if they're looking at this, I want them to be able to say, oh wow, okay, I'm centered on this design. I'm also trying to think about compliances, larger type, and different things that I can add to them. A lot of this works well. A lot of it fails. This is where the feedback comes in. Once you do a design, you look at the paper model. What do you like? What don't you like? You never build something before you get your first round of feedback from your actual user. This is what user-centered design is about. Some of the design considerations that are left out a lot of times. Security, trustworthiness. Think about it now. Everybody uses a bank card. Everybody goes to the ATM, and that's a whole interface that we use. We're used to doing this to get money out. What if they changed it? What if something happened to where a lot of times people were being able to attach small devices on the outside of the scanners and take away the trustworthiness of those machines? The same with a gas pump. Are they trustworthy? Are they secure? Have you designed something in your interface that's easily seen to know whether somebody is tampering with the security of the device? Is it easy to use? Is it easy to handle? Can everybody do it? Can it be held left-handed or right-handed? Is it ergonomic? Does it need to be voice activated for sight impaired people? Think about this. Or should it be something that saves and is cost efficient, that's activated by motion? How many of you go into classrooms today and the lights come on? You walk out and you'll notice that after a couple seconds, they shut off. It saves costs. Think about Walmart. How many of you have gone into a Walmart lately, went to the bathroom, and used their sinks to wash your hands? What happens? Well, there's an action-based effective interface that turns the water on and turns the water right off when you move your hands out. Sometimes it's frustrating because it doesn't pick up your hand motion. You have to wave them and wave them. You frustrate and you go to the next sink because the full active use isn't considered. What happens if that interface eye gets dirty? It clogs up. So they have to be cleaned. Is there a way to make a screen that can self-clean? Maybe that's the next step in that user interface. But the cost effectiveness is interesting because it saves money by saving water. Is it a multitasking capable product? Can it be used for other allocations? Does it have braille aspects if it's an ATM machine? So that people can learn how to use it, the learnability of it, and the repeatability and the memorability of it. Does it support the people and the communications that they're trying to do to achieve their tasks? A lot of these are considerations that seem simple, but we really have to think about them when we get into HCI theory. Human-computer interaction theory is all concerned about the research and the practice of user experiences, how they interact with technology, systems, and the products we design. And more importantly, the scientific evaluation of the implementation of and the interactive computer systems with humans. Everything we do is mostly for human consumption. Whether it's designing a robot to work on a shift line building cars or welding, or whether it's a simplistic viewer for sight-impaired students so that it enlarges the text. Let's think about our game controllers. All of us are gamers out there anymore today. Think about how much time is spent in ergonomics. Does it fit your hand? Does it sculpt where your thumb and fingers are so you can work multiple fingers to control it at once? Is it light activated and touch activated? A lot of them now will come on so it doesn't waste the battery life if they're remote free and charged on batteries. Some have voice activation controls right inside of them. My TV remote from my cable television company has a touch light activation. If I touch it, it lights up so I can see the keypads at night. It also has a speech active. Just like my iPhone, it has a Siri now. So I can say, what's on channel 4? And will bring up the guide and show me what's on channel 4 tonight. Or I'll say, save this program at 8, and it will save it for me. These are all things that people think about. The ergonomics of holding the hand, the controlling, whether you need a thumb action or a finger action, or if you're on your magic mouse that I use, will 2 fingers move the whole screen? Or will it just simply come in and out with a touch of 1? Do I need 2, 1, or does 2 change the whole functionality, allow me to do multiple things with 2 fingers instead of moving? Does clicking on the right side make something different? All this works in functionality. Usability measuring is one of the most interesting things. It's one of the things I love as a scientist. That's what I am. I'm an information scientist. My degree specifically says that I'm an information systems and communication doctorate, but I specify myself as an information scientist. I love looking at cultures and evaluating how people today are using technology and tools to socialize and communicate and create new languages. That's what my dissertation was about, and particularly your age group. And I continue that research. How do I do this? Well, I use a qualitative analysis and a quantitative analysis. We'll talk a lot about this at the end of the semester. It's just something just to hear for now. Where qualitative analysis has a couple different principal ways, which our primary focus will be participant observation, ethnography, and focus groups. Participant observation is we ask people who use the products to allow us to observe them and talk to them in focus groups. What do you think? Ethnography means that we go in as a researcher and we sit and we watch. We spend a long periods of time taking notes about what we see, how people react and like or dislike our pieces and products that we're creating. The quantitative analysis is thought to be a more scientific by a lot of people because they have direct questionnaires and surveys, and it gives you more of a quantifiable number. Both can be numbered. We can count the measured amount of times I see somebody frown or smile while using an active piece. I can count the amount of times and the frequencies of people working and touching or leaving, or how long they use a device or don't use a device. I can ask them in focus groups and count how many times people say, I didn't like this because it hurt my thumb, and count how many times people said it hurt my thumbs. These are all things that we'll have to think about designing and measuring our actual usability of our products. And you'll use this a lot down the road. There's 4 stages of usability design. Establish the requirements. What does your client need to do? What tasks need to be solved? Are there design alternatives? We come up with one, but clients don't like one. They like to see 3 or 4 ideas. And once you get to the stage to where you test on paper your ideas, maybe you develop a prototype. Maybe it's a cardboard box interactive display with pages that you put in and out, or a quick and dirty interface. And then you have the evaluation, and you ask them, what frustrates you? What's annoying you? Why did you walk away from this? What lost your patience? How do we change this? What would make it feel better in your hands? Why don't you like the glasses we designed with the interface in them? It's too distracting for your eyes? There's too much reflection? These are things that Google would have asked during development of their first stages of Google Glass. An interesting friend of mine, a doctorate, Frank Hartle, actually used Google Glass and put them on Pittsburgh police officers to see how they work during insurgency situations where there's dangerous and hazardous conditions with live shooters. Through this, they were able to visually capture and see what actions were taken by police officers and say whether or not these are an effective tool, because a person behind the scenes can communicate, hey, I see something that you're not, because they're seeing the same thing that this person is seeing. Incredible. Changes the way law enforcement and safety is active now. Are there cultural differences? So I said about my friends in Saudi, think about the iPad. Well, they would have to totally change the idea and philosophy of the way it's readable. We read left to right. They'd have to do it right to left. It's another language. It has to be able to change effectively and easy. Everything that's culturally different there, from religion to color, is very different. Think about the color of red. What does it mean to you? Stop, hot, anger. It might not mean the same thing in another country. Green, we think of as good, go, healthy. It might not mean the same thing somewhere else. They can think of green as ugly, bad. These are all connotations and cultural differences that you'll have to think as interface designers. And you'll get to this in your last stages in your senior products. What about age differences? I see this all the time. My father's a techno guru. My grandmother's never touched a computer, although I gave her my Apple IIc that I had from when I was a kid. What about my children? I don't have any yet, but what if they do come about someday? My brother has 3 daughters. Each of them knows how to use my iPhone and unlock it, and one of them called Japan about a month ago, and I had a bill for a couple $100 because I thought she was just playing. She's 5 years old, but she had an hour-long conversation apparently with somebody in Japan. Great. These are all things you have to think about. Do we need to have safety features and locks for children? Do teens need to have guards on them? We all seen when we were kids, parental guards on the TV. Is it something that needs blocked on websites through the iPhones? Or should an iPhone stop when it gets recognized inside of a vehicle? Very interesting. These are all interface designs. Think about the color. Take a look at the screen right now. Can you see all the letters? I purposely made different shades. What if you're colorblind and you can't see these? It'd be difficult, would it not? So we have to think about ways to make sure everybody can utilize it. Or if red is offensive or yellow, you surely wouldn't want to use that in your client's design. So it'd be something different to think about. Or too much color. Look how distracting and annoying this is. I did it on purpose. Do you like this? I don't. Accessibility is one of the last things we're going to talk about. That's kind of a main piece in here. The American Disabilities Act is a compliancy. You have to think about all types of people that would be working with your designs and all types of disabilities today. There's mental, there's physical, there are non-traditional. We see the sight and hearing and touch is used, but we don't think about color a lot of times, or the mental aspects. Things can be offensive to people and mentally and cognitively cause your product to be a failure because you didn't think of the connotations of how the device is shaped or looked. That's why we do focus groups and we ask the users what they think. There's sort of 6 usability goals. 1, is it effective? If it's not effective, then it's a failure. Is it efficient? Is it saving you money, saving you time, helping you in your job and in your life? Is it safe? You wouldn't want to build something that's going to hurt somebody. Just think about it. If you're giving the wrong information out and you're working for the government and you accidentally give away passcodes to set off a bomb, trigger a dam break, or let too much water out of a dam. These are all utility functionality things. Learnability is one of the bigger problems in most usability designs as well. Is it easy to learn? If it's so hard and sophisticated, does the common person fall out and not be able to use your product? And then once they learn it, is it memorable? Is it easy to memorize? Is it easy to think about? Or do you have 43 steps to get to it? Think about the answering machine somewhere that you've worked with, maybe your father's business. Or when you call in for help. If you'd like to talk to X, press 1. If you'd like to leave a message for X, please dial the first 3 initials. If you don't know your party's initials, press 3. 3 will take you back to the main menu. Remember these? We all have them. We all get frustrated. Why can't it just be boop, number 1? Please let us go. Desirable aspects. This comes back to, is it satisfying? Is it enjoyable? Do we get pleasure out of using this? Will we want to use it again? Are we excited to tell friends about it? Because if we're not telling friends about it, word of mouth isn't going to get out there and nobody else is going to buy it. Is it entertaining? Does it help us get our schoolwork done? Does it enhance socialization? Think about the world and how it's changed with the smartphone. Everywhere you look today, all you see is the tops of people's heads. Why? They're walking with them down and they're texting and they're socializing. They're on Facebook. They're sharing photographs. They're sharing instantaneous moments of their lives, traditionally and non-traditionally. Things that you would never want to share are being shared. Some things that you can't wait to see, you wait for and you look at your screen and say, oh, I can't wait till Wendy shares this with me. Did she get the award? Did she become Fair Queen? She snaps a selfie instantaneously as soon as she gets the award. We don't have to wait for the news from your mom to call or somebody else. You know. We know the score of the big game because someone's texting it as the play's finishing. Is it rewarding? Is it emotionally fulfilling? Think about the iPad mini. How many of you bought one? How many of you use it? How many of you said when you bought it, why did I buy this? It's no different than my iPad. It's just a little smaller. It's actually kind of cumbersome. It doesn't do everything. So design principles are a really interesting part of us, and we're going to think a lot about the experiences and the tasks at hand. We're going to get feedback, and we're going to think about how paramount feedback is from the users. The findability, the visibility. If you can't find something on a screen, you get frustrated and you do what? Click, go to another website. If it's not easily visible, you what? Get frustrated and go right away to the search on your own, or you click out. If there's too many constraints that you can't get to where you want to be, what do you do with the phone? After the 3rd or 4th beep, 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 you hang up, you quit. Think about a GPS in your car. my car, I have a Toyota Camry. It goes pretty cool. I have a GPS in it. It's rather frustrating because every time I go to use it, I automatically got to get going. It won't let me plug any information until I pull over. Why? Well, Toyota designed them so that if your car's in motion, you can't actively use the GPS system because your eyes have to be on the screen and not on the road. So they saw that as a safety condition. So they said if wheels are in motion and brake is off or not in park, GPS can't be used. Once those conditions are met, you can put the GPS into action. Pretty interesting, right? Can you think of other motion safety situations? How about new saws today? How many of you are woodworkers and work with table saws? There's a company out now whose new invention senses physical touch of a human hand and instantaneously stops so that you don't even get a cut or scrape on your finger if you touch the blade. It senses moisture levels somehow. Don't know how, but pretty cool. So no workers will lose their fingers anymore in sawmills. Crazy, huh? How about consistency? Does it keep working with other products? Or do you have to have another interface to put the interface together? How many of you guys have had to buy parts and cables for your TVs and get frustrated because you have to go back to Best Buy and buy 3 more? Is it affordable? How many of you bought the iPhone 6? How many of you guys went right out and bought the iPhone 6S? I didn't. Do I need that extra amount? Is it an affordance issue? Design simplicity is another idea. You have to think about the actions and the elements. Are there too many icons or buttons? Are there so many boxes that it's annoying? Do you have lines and graphics all over the place so you just don't get to the point? Are the graphics cool but too much and distracting from the point and the objective for the task? And then when you're trying to get there, there's 40 pop-up photos. Are there odd and distracting colors? Is it graphically negative and causing you to be persuasively change your mind or move to a different interface? Let's think about that a little more. What do I mean by this? Graphically negative. This will be kind of our last point for tonight. Is it discriminatory? Does it offend a group of persons or people or cultures? Is it anti-feministic? Does it cause a whole group to be shunned? Are females going to be mad because you used only this color or not that color? Is it pornographic, which most people today don't want anything to do with these things? Is it socially distracting? Can you think about this? What are socially distracting issues? Is it culturally ignorant? If you know that you shouldn't give this information out or post this word or use swear words, why would you want to do it and give it to a culture or a client that you're going to distract and make upset? These are all things you have to think about. Oops, sorry, gang. These are all issues that come out that's not in your book, but we talk about through the rest of the semester. The cultural issues, the aspects of social and meanings. So in your text this week, too, I believe is your first little assignment to think about. I asked you to look at a pencil's design, a simple number 2 yellow pencil. How would you change it? More importantly, I want you to take your hand that you usually traditionally write with, if it's your right, and stick it in your pocket, your back pocket, so you're not comfortable while you're sitting. And I want you to pick up that pencil and try to write those information pieces out. Think about how you would change that design. What's frustrating you? What could you do differently? How would you make it easier to hold, to grab? Is it the texture? Is it the feel? Is it the size? Is it the weight? All these things are elements that you have to think about in design principles, and I want you to think about now. So this is our first little lecture. We're going to have many of them through, and I'm glad you guys paid attention. Think about all these issues and write down some notes in your journals. The more you put in from my lectures in your journals, which I hope you're putting in as long as you go along, you can watch this as many times as you want, will go towards your final journal score. It's a big part of your grade, and that's part of the active participant in my classes that I'd like to see you guys do. So I'll see you guys again next week.